Hello, everybody. M-Dog here, and I actually just woke up not that long ago, and we actually got some Splatoon patch notes, Splatoon 9.3 patch notes. I wanted to go over it, give some thoughts, and give my opinions, and let's go ahead and just get right into it. All right, so I have the patch notes pulled up here. We'll go ahead and go through it one at a time real quickly here. So obviously this is going to be for mostly multiplayer. We do know that they have adjusted things pretty much around the spotter shot and the forge and the spotter shot pro. So we'll go ahead and see how they adjusted stuff in this one. Let's go ahead and take a look here. For the Splush-O-Matic, the spotter shot junior, and the aerospray, all of them will have the speed of the shots increased by approximately 3% extended flight distance. So all three of these are basically going to be able to shoot better. They're going to be able to fight better, basically, is what these three are going to be able to do. It's the same buff that the spotter shot got, and that didn't actually visibly change anything. It just made it a better fighter by ever so slightly. So I think this is going to be a really, really good buff overall to the weapon. Now, the next one here ends at 85 and ends at 89. Movement speed while firing is now about 5% faster, and they reduce the scatter of the shots while on the ground by approximately 5%. Now, what this actually means, of course, it's just going to be faster while firing, so it's actually going to be able to paint better by doing that, and then reduce the scatter of the shots while on the ground by approximately 5%, so it's going to be slightly more accurate while it's on the ground. Both of these are actually going to be pretty decent buffs, I think. They're actually going to be really, really good for the ends out. They're going to be able to get cooler a little bit faster, and they're going to be able to strafe and fight a little bit better as well. We have the Nova here. Reduce the scatter of the shots while jumping by approximately 33%. So they reduced the jump RNG by 33%. Nova really did need something, and I'm glad that they actually decided to buff the jump RNG, because the jump RNG was absolutely atrocious. I actually did not like it at all. This should make it a little bit better in the air, not like broken or anything, but just a little bit better. We have the big swing roller, slightly expanded the vertical swing's collision detection with players to make it easier to hit opponents. This is basically just making the vertical swing a little bit bigger. I actually don't know how big this is going to be. I'm not really sure how big the vertical is right now, but it feels pretty difficult to hit. So hopefully this will just make it a little bit easier for like newer players and for just better consistency as well. Paintbrush. Shorten the interval between continuous swings by approximately 1/30th of a second. Now this is actually an impressive one because that actually means that it's going to swing faster. That actually have been one of the pain points of the paintbrush is how slow it is. Even though it's really good at fighting mid-range because it's supposed to be that kind of mid-range in-between brush, it's just too slow. So hopefully this buff will actually be good for it. Now here we have the mini spotling and Zing mini spotling. Reduce the time required to charge fully by approximately 1/20th of a second. And with this change, the time until the first level of charge ends is also reduced by approximately 1/30th of a second. So they're basically just increasing or decreasing the time it takes for a full charge, which is actually pretty interesting. I didn't think the mini really needed a buff, but this just makes it even stronger of a weapon, so that's good. I'm actually excited to see that in game because I actually use the mini spotlight quite a bit. Zing specifically, I really like it, so I think this is going to be really good. We have the heavy spotlight and heavy spotlight deco. Increase the firing duration by approximately 11% and reduce the time required to charge the shot by 1/20th of a second. So the same charge reduction on the heavy spotlight, but the firing duration by approximately 11%, that's actually pretty significant in this game. It's going to be able to shoot for a lot longer, and that actually might be able to do some good against at least some of the shorter range weapons, so I'm pretty excited to see that. The Dapple Dualies increase the speed of the shots by approximately 3%, so same buff as before here. They're just going to be a little bit better at fighting at range. They're going to be a little bit more consistent at fighting at range, so that's good. It allows them to less room for error, basically, I think. Here we have the spot dualies and the on-parries. Slightly expanded the collision detection with player shots fired from a normal posture to make it easier to hit. So when you're in, standard, not turret mode, when you're in the standard mode, you're going to shoot or make it a little bit easier to hit people, but nothing like too insane. And of course, when you're in turret mode, that doesn't change. I think that's a good, little good buff there. For the recycled umbrella, slight expanded the width of spray droplets created by the shot and reduced the amount of ink consumption when firing a shot by approximately 14%. So this is going to be slightly better at painting, and then it's going to be more ink efficient as well, so you'll be able to get more shots out of it. I'm not sure how much this is going to be. We'll definitely have to look into that once the patch comes out. And then we have the Sniper 5H. Slightly decreases the width of the spray droplets created by the shots, so just slight painting nerf. Very slight, probably won't change the paintability of either of these weapons a whole lot. And then the mid decavitator and the charcoal. Lengthen the time required for movement to begin with when lunging forward with a charge sweep by approximately 1/30th of a second, and reduce the width of the spray droplets created by the ink wave of the horizontal slide by approximately 12%. So it's going to be able to paint less, which is, I think, is actually probably a decent nerf. And then lengthen the time required for movement to begin lunging forward. So it's going to take a little bit longer for you to start going forward with the decavitator, just by a little bit. Not too much, but just probably long enough to help players react a bit better to it, because sometimes it can be hard to react to it. Now we have special weapons, Ultra Stamp. Increase the damage dealt by the explosion at the point of impact where the stamp is thrown in the following ways. Increase the damage dealt to opponents near the center of the explosion from 60 to 220. So when you're throwing it and you're anywhere remotely close to the center, you're gonna die. And then increase the damage dealt from opponents further from the center of the explosion from 30 to 60. So you might be able to actually combo with the throw a little bit better, or at least give your teammates a bit more to combo. So this actually is encouraging you to throw the stamp more, which I actually personally like. Just like it just gives it more of a reason for people to throw things, which I think is fun. Triple splashdown, increase the radius ink by the explosion by approximately 11%. So it's actually going to be better at zones cheese. Interesting change. I'm not really sure how to feel about that one. I'll definitely have to see how it is when the patch comes out. And then the last special here, Trizuka. For the explosion at the point of impact, reduce damage dealt to the opponent further from the center of the explosion of 35. And the damage dealt to the opponent's center remains at 53. So this is basically going to say there's basically going to be a sour spot, essentially. Because right now, the explosion, regardless of how far away from you, does a consistent 53 damage. So now it's going to be reduced to 35. And then the closer you get to the center, it's going to do 53. And then, of course, it's going to be a one shot when you get hit directly by it. And then shorten the duration by approximately half of a second when not equipping the special power-up gear ability. So they're just overall nerfing it here. They're making it a little bit more easy to counter when someone gets hit by the edge of the blast. So it's not going to be a 2-shot if you hit. It's not going to be 2-shot. It'll be a 3-shot now when you get hit further from the center, which I think is good. And it still keeps that 2-shot hitbox when it's closer to the center, and the 1-shot when you're directly on the center of it. So that's good. And then shorten the duration by half of a second. So it's going to be about 0.5 seconds shorter when you don't have any special power-ups. So you're going to have to spend a little bit more gear slots for a special power-up if you play around Trizuka. So I think that's a good change. And then here we have the Octobrush from points 200 to 190. So that's a buff in special gain. So it's going to get Zipcaster a little bit more. On parries is going to get Splashdown a little bit more. Douse Dualies is going to get Whale a little bit more. Recycled Umbrella is going to Mark II is going to get Splashdown a little bit more. S-Blast 91 is going to, I believe that's the Reef. That's interesting. I don't know why that's a thing. Maybe it's just a little bit better in like casual. I don't really know what that change is about. And then Sniper 5H from 210 to 220. So Sniper has finally gotten nerfed at least a little bit. And with the Zap buffs, Head It and Zap might actually see a little bit more play compared to Sniper now that Sniper is one of the 220 weapons. But we'll have to see about that. Okay, we have changes to Splatfest terrain for Tricolor Turf War has been changed in some stages. We got Eeltail, Hammerhead, Mako Mark, Crableg, and Bluefin. Let's see, change the terrain near the attacking team. So it looks like they're just giving some extra terrain and shielding objects for the attackers and the defenders. I guess it just depends on what map. I'll go ahead and scroll through this. You can read it. I'm not super interested in this, so I'll just leave it on screen for just a little bit. Okay. And then I want to actually see this portion right here. This update focuses on making changes to multiplayer balance. So this update focuses on making changes to multiplayer balance. Upon analyzing the battle data since releasing the last update and considering weapons' relationships to the weapons for which we improved performance last time, we have slightly extended the flight distance of shots for some weapons with shorter shot flight distance than those we improved last time, and made changes to strengthen the traits of or compensate for the weakness of some weapons with shot flight distances similar to those we previously improved. So basically what this is saying is it will it basically just means that they're increasing the flight distance or the shot distance of the shorter range weapons, and that was centered around the splatter shot buff that we got last patch. So this is basically just to put them up to par with the splatter shot, or I think they just probably think that is a good idea to increase the shot distance. It's probably not going to be super noticeable, but it probably will make a difference when you're fighting at max range against something like the 52 gal, for example. Regarding the Sniper Rider 5H, Sniper Rider 5B, Mint Decavitator, and Charcoal Decavitator, we made changes to slightly reduce the ability to maintain ink from a distance to give opponents wielding weapons with shorter shot flight distances at more time to counter. It's interesting that they say shot flight distance instead of range. I'm not really sure why they don't just use range, but regardless, so they're basically just making the shorter range weapons counter the Sniper Rider and the Mint just a little bit easier. Not obviously game breaking, but just a little bit easier, which I think a lot of short range people will appreciate because like Mint and Sniper Rider are like can be super impressive. So I think that's good. Then for the Trizuka, we have maintained its trait as a special weapon capable of turning the tables if used well, while simultaneously making it easier to counter by shortening the time that players on the opposing team must be wary of the Trizuka and reducing cases where such players are defeated due to accumulated damage despite taking evasive actions. So yeah, like I said, they're trying to keep Trizuka off of the field for longer if you're not using any special power-up, which I think is good. And they want to reduce cases where such players are defeated due to accumulated damage. So that's what that nerf from the 53 to 35 is. So even if you take evasive actions and you barely miss, you're not going to take that 53 damage and then die by another splash, or you're not going to take 53 damage and then die by a combo by a different weapon. It's trying to make it more rewarding by hitting a direct and nerfing the indirect, which I also think is a good idea. Because Trizuka still can be really impressive, and it is a game-winning special, or even a fight-winning special. I do think they should still nerf the Tri-Strikes. I think Tri-Strikes is a bit overtuned right now, especially with the whole touch of death thing. I really don't think you should be on the edge of it, and you should just instantly, like, disappear. I do think they should nerf that a little bit, so I'm hoping in the next patch they'll actually kind of focus on Tri-Strike a little bit more, but we'll see. And then additionally, for Tricolor Turf War, we have adjusted the arrangement of certain stages, significantly statistical leaning in the win ratio for the attacking team and the defending team. So they just changed some Tricolor Turf War stages so that it's a little bit more even when you're on the attacking or defending team. The next update will focus on changes to the balance of battles based on long-term analysis of battle data. So we're not done yet. And just considering that this came out kind of beginning of the season, but not quite the beginning of the season, it'll probably be around the same time, probably about a week or two after. So yeah, overall, I think this is a very good update. Ultra Stamp, I think Ultra Stamp is actually Ultra Stamp, Heavy Spotlighting, and Zimmy are all winners of this patch. Everything else, like Enzap, is also definitely a winner. And indirectly, Headit is going to be a winner because with the nerfs of Pencil, Headit might come into the limelight a little bit more, which I actually appreciate. So I am looking forward to this patch. We'll go ahead and go over all of the changes tomorrow on stream, and I'll post a video about that later as well. And I'll also actually have a video linked to Chara's VOD channel and Dude's channel. because they'll go into more details than I could because I understand the game a little bit more than I do. So I'll go ahead and leave a link to those guys in the description down below, and you can check out their videos on their thoughts on this patch, because I think it's very important. While I'm not a top tier player, it is very important to hear, non top tier player opinions. But if you want to hear a top tier player opinion, then I will go ahead and link the two major ones, or the two main ones. Other than that, thank you guys very much for watching. If you like what you see here, feel free to subscribe. And again, I will post a video on the comparisons between the updates as well. And yeah, thank you again very much for watching. And I will see you guys next time for another video. See you later.